Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome to my Man Cave party deck, and welcome to Man Cave Meals. It's Friday evening, about 7 o'clock Eastern time, and today I'm going to have a little live stream, our first one with some new equipment that I hope is going to work real well. And I'm still learning how to use this. We got a Mevo. My wife hooked me up with a really nice live streaming camera as an anniversary gift. We're getting ready to celebrate our first wedding anniversary this weekend, so I'm playing around with the Mevo. But today I want to talk about a couple of things. The first thing that was suggested as a good live streaming topic was the age-old debate of fat cap up or fat cap down. And tonight I'm going to bring you the answer to that question. If you've ever wondered what the answer is, I have it for you. So just stick around. We're going to talk about fat cap up versus fat cap down here in just a few minutes. I'm just finishing up dinner. I had dinner tonight. I cooked dinner on the Traeger Timberline 850 that's sitting behind me here on the Man Cave party deck. I actually made a little video I'm going to put together. I made what's called a one temperature meal. We had corn on the cob, we had macaroni and cheese, and we had some pork chops. It was a 40-minute long cook where you cook everything at one temperature. You do some stages. I'm going to have a video posted for that maybe here over the weekend. I'm going to try to get that put together and edited tonight. It's really good. It's a really neat technique, especially if you've got a pellet grill, because it makes this particular project a little easier. And I've got a little trick that I like to use for searing meat, whether it be burgers, steaks, or pork chops, or whatever, on a pellet grill. Everybody gives pellet grills kind of a bad rap when it comes to searing, but I've got a little trick I want to show you that worked out really nicely for me on the Traeger. So yeah, we got a lot going on here on the deck. We've got the Alpha oven. I've got two Kamado Joe Classics on the deck right now. I've got the Traeger Timberline 850, the Kamado Joe Jr., and I've got one here you can't see off cam. It's the PK Grills, the PK 360. I've got my Camp Chef stove sitting over here, the ugly drum smoker sitting back there off camera. So yeah, I can't fit it all on here. So yeah, I'll give you guys a tour of the deck sometime as well. But let's go ahead and talk about fat cap up versus fat cap down. That's a big debate. There's a lot of people on both sides of that argument, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. First of all, the arguments, when I read them, which they come up regularly in all of the forums where I participate on social media, everybody's got a reason that they do fat cap up or fat cap down. The fat cap up faction is pretty much in the camp that it bastes the meat and the meat absorbs those juices and it increases the flavor of the meat by absorbing all the fat. The fat cap down camp is pretty much a sole reason, as far as I know, is it gives a heat barrier to the meat from any heat that's coming up below. So if you're cooking on some kind of setup where you've got some direct heat underneath, or you're real close to a heat deflector or a heat shield, you might be providing your meat a little bit of extra protection from that, where it won't over harden or it won't get too hard. And that's one good reason. So, and everybody that's leaving comments, I'm seeing some of those here on the screen. I'm trying to look at the camera some instead of looking at the screen all the time, so we'll have a look. If you've got questions about anything I'm saying, leave them as a comment here, and I will go back through all those once we're done, and we'll set that. I'll answer anybody's questions that I don't see. But back to the fat cap up, fat cap down. Those are the two arguments that most people say, and I've done a lot of reading, especially on sites like AmazingRibs.com, which debunks the myth of meat absorbing any of those juices from self-basting. What it does is it does keep the outside of the meat moist, but when you're dealing with barbecue meat, such as well, your fat caps are coming from Boston butts and briskets. Everybody wants a bark as well. Everybody's pretty adamant about the bark. And if you go fat cap up, in my opinion, you're really ruining any chance of setting up a decent bark on the meat. If you're not worried about the bark, then you can do that. But when your meat is constantly self-basting in that fat that's rendering off, your bark's just not going to set up. And I've cooked this way, and it also, in my opinion, washes a lot of the rub off. And it does, you know, it makes things a little more complicated. And I think you lose a lot of the flavor from your bark, and you lose a lot of the seasonings itself when they run off through that basting. If I had to make the choice of the two, I'm going to go fat cap down, because I do think it's going to render, some of that fat cap is not going to render, and it does provide a barrier if you've got any extra heat. I went through a stage for quite some time where I like to take the fat cap completely off, and I still do that, but you do have to pay attention to that surface. I like to form a bark all the way around the meat, so my objective is to take it off completely most of the time. And that's an option that most people never discuss. Everybody wants to leave a 1/4 of an inch fat cap on. I've cooked a lot of Boston butts, I've cooked a lot of briskets where I take it off completely and get a bark all the way around the meat. That's my favorite way to do it. But currently I am in the fat cap down camp, and I'm in the leave a 1/4 of an inch on. And I like the result you get from that. If you leave a 1/4 of an inch on, there's a majority of that renders off. It doesn't all render, because that fat is of a content that really doesn't render completely. So keep that in mind, and give it a try both ways. I'm not ever going to recommend fat cap up, so don't go that route. But try fat cap down, and try taking it off completely if you can, and see what kind of results you get that way. You're not going to have bad results either way. If you're cooking at higher temperatures like I tend to do, I think the fat cap down is the right solution, because I've got a higher level of heat underneath the meat. I like to cook 300 to 325 most of the time. That's the go-to temperature for me for my low and slow. I like the times involved. I like the faster times, and I get great quality meat with that. So there's your answer. The answer is fat cap down, and just don't listen to what anybody else tells you. And if they want to argue, you know, send them my way. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll cook beside them. So let's see. I saw a couple of questions come by here. They pop up on my iPad screen, but they don't stream. I only get them one at a time. So like I said, I'm gonna have to go back, have a look through these questions, and I'll give you answers. But also, for those of you that are watching this after the fact, leave me a comment about topics you'd like to see on live streaming. I'm gonna try to do this on a regular schedule, and I'm gonna try to do it on Thursday evening rather than Friday evening. And during the summer months, when I've got daylight a lot longer, I'm gonna try to go, you know, sometime between 7 and 7:30 p.m. on Thursday evening Eastern Daylight Time, and shoot at it from there. So I don't know what kind of topics we're going to talk about yet. A lot of people have suggested cooking live streams, which I don't mind doing cooking live streams, but I think cooking live streams can get a little boring, because there's a lot of time in that live stream where there's really nothing going on but the cook. And I will come up with some things that I can do. There are a lot of cooking topics I can do live that go quickly. Like, I'd like to do some stuff on my Camp Chef stove using the griddle. Like, we'll do some fast cooks, some really quick cooks. I would like to I've got some equipment. I've got some things I'd like to show you. Maybe live streaming is a good way to do a product demo or a product review. I've got a few new things in the man cave. I recently posted a video about the Cinder grill. I know if some of you have seen that. It's a George Foreman grill type setup that's really smart. It cooks like a sous vide cooker and then gives you the option to sear when it comes to meat, and it does a lot of other things. You've got a cooking plate where you've got precision control. I've got another product similar to that on the way that we're going to have a look at when it gets here. I have a new meat partnership coming together with a meat company that I'm excited to tell you guys about sometime next week. I've dealt with a lot of different companies and suppliers of meat in the past, and some of them have been okay, and I had kind of gotten away from doing that, but this one looks very promising, so I'm looking forward to introducing you to these guys next week. I've got some meat coming, and when it gets here, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you about the company and about their meat practices and how they came to be. It's a really nice setup. So that being the case, I think we're going to stop. I'm not going to ramble. I don't want to get into a rambling situation where I bore you guys to death. So I'm going to end this here. I'm going to go back and answer your questions. I'm going to edit the topic line of this. I haven't quite figured out how to run this yet and do a... It's supposed to give me the option to set up a topic for the live stream, but I didn't see that come up here on this app. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to figure that out, but I'm going to go back and edit it in the meantime. And until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.